All right, Skunk Ape, this one's specifically for you, mainly because The Rock is a Bond film. Wrong one. They're all the wrong ones.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, speaking fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some modestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead of say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable.
Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not giving up, no, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top, taking off in the wind. I gotta make it, I'm saving every day to taste it. I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I've had for several ages. A vacant, modern kingdom for the taking.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness.
What are the humans doing? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this particular installment of Sasquatch Presents, because it's not a Sasquatch Shields. I'm taking those off. And I'll be putting my hair in a ponytail soon. But I have a little video from Captain Curmudgeon we're going to take a looky-poo at. And then I want to have a real serious discussion with y'all about movies, because I'm afraid that people aren't braining up on the movies right. See, this is why movies are terrible now. Nobody's bothering to think about them. They don't pick them apart like we used to. When we used to rent movies, we would watch them 7, 8, 9 times while we had them, and then return them and argue about them for a month. That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's just little details being picked apart a little bit at a time on Twitter or some YouTube videos. So we're going to watch some of those YouTube videos, and we're going to do it with a drop. If she's still here, if she's back here, she's over here somewhere. She'll show up when she gets here, I guess. Think she was feeding midgets or something. What are those? The little children, right? What's up, Slow Burner? I'm gonna roll back through chat right quick because we just had a whole bunch of people roll through in and out. Anybody on the show is excommunicated from getting the gold, so the smoking auditor gets the gold. An abstract look gets the silver. Good to see you, bud. And MVTV gets the bronze. It's good to see all of y'all. Russell Sperry, welcome in. Snark and Sass, boopy. I don't have my voice all the way back yet, but I'll try. Work Lion, the Smoking Auditor. We have Michael Haywood, Robert Wolf II, or are you the sequel? We have Dill Hole, which has some really hilarious things he's doing over there. That bit with the ping pong balls is absolutely genius, dude. Keep burning them up. Everybody loves that shit. Fire is always good, especially in a dangerous environment. So if you can find somewhere more dangerous to burn the ping pong balls, take them there and burn it. Just don't die, bro. We don't want to see that. We don't want you to go out like that. Be careful. Do it right. There's a safe way to do everything except nuclear weapons. Who we got? Freaky Geek is in here. Andrew Langlois. Langley. I'm going to get you to send me a recording of that, bud. I want to say it right. Got Slow Burner in the house. It's good to see you, brother. Untethered Live has showed up. Movies are terrible now because the children raised in the 90s are now writing them. And that's just, hey, he's not entirely wrong. Oh. Okay. We got Yankee Kyle. Welcome to the show, bud. Think we've got called up there. Yeah, Dale Hole's in here too. It's good to see him. I was hoping to get him on the show, but he wants a gift card. Damn scammer. I don't understand it. Why you got to push me like that? I'm just an old Sasquatch, kind of get along in the world. Wouldn't mind talking to Slow Burner behind the scenes a little bit. See what he thinks about
Slow Burner.
Yeah, he's cool beans. You miss him. I want him back. He's going to be my big spoon in the gulag. I don't know what to do. My back will be cold. Thank you, Smoking Auditor. Well, yeah, I don't have your link in here anywhere. Hold on. Let me do this right quick. We're going to start with this one. Actually, no, I should do this one first. Do it right or don't do it at all, right?
Right.
So I've been trying. All right. So depending on how you credit videos, you can use them, right? If you credit them properly, they're not as the copyright system seems to not mind as much anymore. It's a really weird thing. But if you can convince the copyright system that you're not trying to make money off of it and they don't mess with you. I don't even get claims on this stuff. It's really weird. As long as I don't use copyrighted music, they don't care what I look at, apparently. Get this right. We're going to pin that for the video. All right, I'm only watching the first bit. He does 2 bits when he does these, and they're all falling apart. God damn it. No, his are well put together. My shit's falling apart. So everybody knows Captain Curmudgeon. If you don't, you should definitely go check him out. Because even if you don't like his angle on politics, imagine squint and maybe cover up one eye and imagine he's a younger Dennis Miller. And the old brazen Dennis Miller from back in the 90s.
I started doing this YouTube thing. I have had the suggestion put to me from time to time by several people that I should do something on the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and Davos and that whole thing. I still haven't done it, not because I didn't want to, but because I just found it kind of a tough nut to crack. I didn't have any unique angle on the subject that was different than the way most of you probably see it. That the WEF is, to all intents and purposes, a group of very affluent people who seek to position themselves as a sort of de facto world government, which is a conclusion that can be safely arrived at without much in the way of deep analysis, or deep analysis, as Mr. Plinkett would say. I'm also highly attuned to the fact that there are those of you in the audience, and you know who you are, who think I am a bit of a weirdo for knowing too much about the history of European royalty. That criticism usually goes something like, oh, come on, man, we're supposed to be Americans here. We're not supposed to go in for all that.
Americans!
Shit, what possible good could all that arcane knowledge be doing you? Well, tonight in this opening segment, like 2 drunk drivers colliding in the dead of night, we are going to visit the intersection between those 2 things. And I bet you didn't know there was such an intersection. I sure didn't. Not until last week when I received the suggestion again and decided, okay, it's time. I need to find an angle on this thing and just go with it. Now,
Thanks,
we know
bud.
about the
I appreciate
big
it. Good to
names
see you.
that
What's
attend
truth?
Davos, that big shindig each year, your American grifter celebrities and grifter politicians. But as far as the actual members of the WEF go, aside from Klaus Schwab himself, Shut up and eat the bugs! We must eat the bugs to save the planet from the changing climate. The bugs are very tasty. Shut up and eat them! Most people, myself included, have never given all that much thought to their identity. They're just some amorphous blob of super wealthy Euro douchebags, right? But then I had quite the epiphany when I started studying the actual list of names. Before 1 minute had elapsed, the proverbial light bulb went off in my head, and I had my eureka moment. Holy shit, I said. 80% of these people are from the former royal houses of Europe, and 90% of that 80% is German. So how does that come to pass, you ask? Well, here's where we need to get into some historical background. Everybody knows that the First World War was effectively the death knell for most of the royal dynasties of continental Europe. The Kaiser got deposed, the Austrian emperor got deposed, the Tsar got shot, and so on. But here's the thing about the German part of that equation. The Hohenzollerns, the house of the Kaiser Wilhelms, they were not Germany's only royal house, and not by a long shot. There were actually 20 others tied together in a confederation with the King of Prussia, Kaiser Wilhelm, as its head. If you don't believe me, here they are in descending order of precedence. You got 4 kingdoms: Prussia, Bavaria, Saxony, Württemberg. 6 grand duchies: Baden, Hesse, and by Rhine, Mecklenburg-Schwerin, Mecklenburg-Strelitz, Oldenburg, and Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach. 5 regular duchies: Anhalt, Brunswick, Saxe-Altenburg, Saxe-Meiningen, and Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. And if that last one sounds familiar, that's because it became the British royal house when Prince Albert married Queen Victoria, which remained up until 1917 when they changed the name to Windsor because King George V decided it wasn't the best look having a German last name when you're in the middle of fighting a war against the Germans. And finally, you've got 6 principalities. And yes, it is a strange quirk of the German noble system that a duke outranks a prince, but then the Germans are a strange people. Lippe, Reuss-Greitz, Reuss-Gera, Schaumburg-Lippe, Schwarzburg, Rudolstadt, and Waldeck-Pyrmont. And this opening segment is getting away from me, so go grab yourself a strudel and some sauerkraut, strap on your lederhosen, and meet me back here in 5 seconds, yeah?
He does these crazy deep dives into topics that are short, sweet, to the point, and then he does a second bit that you can go check out that goes deeper into the concept. But yeah, he just laid out a whole bunch of facts that nobody really wants to talk about. Like nobody nowhere, not even me. I'm not sure I trust him speaking German on my channel. I didn't realize he was going to bust out in a sneeze. Thought he was trying to clear his throat or something.
Too funny.
Authoritative. Are we really trying to trust authorities? I mean, with what we just went through, I'm not sure I trust anybody who makes more than I do a year, like anyone at all. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just saying, like, everybody I've seen who's uphill from me has decided to shit on freedom and take the boot. I don't get it. I don't understand it. People I went to school with that grew up being very rational, reasonable people have moved to cities and suddenly they are completely, to quote one of my best libertarian friends, if you put a D on a bag of shit, I'll vote for it. And I went, you work at a college, don't you? Yeah. What does that mean? Okay, just checking. Anyway, I'm just saying, pick a direction and go with it, bro. I'm good with it. Sneezy Yeezy. Oh, wow. What have we got going on in chat? What are y'all doing? Okay, y'all have had. I mean, it's fun. It's good fun to be had over there. Y'all can play with it. It's cool. All right, so we had this question, right, that I posed to everybody earlier, I think yesterday. In your heart of hearts, AJ, do you believe The Rock is a Bond film?
Yes.
It seems obvious on the surface, but did you know that it goes deeper?
No.
All right. So let me tell you how in depth the people involved with this film went to be able to use the Bond concept without actually naming it a Bond film and having to pay property rights, right?
All right.
So if you go and break down the
Slow
dates,
burner said no, by the way.
okay, that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. I'm going to let the gentleman on the screen explain it all. But if you go and break down the time frames of the movies versus the time frames mentioned in The Rock as to when and where and how Bond was where he would be and how Bond could be in an American prison throughout the mid-'80s with the whole thing on. My man over here went and did the research that I have failed to do 3 times. I have attempted to make this video and failed 3 times. I've got so much Rock footage over here on this computer. When I saw this video, I went and deleted it. It was all in one photo. I'm like, well, I don't have to do that no more. Click.
Sean Connery connection.
Okay. So the Sean Connery connection comes from a handful of ubiquitous Bond phrases, right? It's things that Bond has said in various movies up until Sean Connery was no longer Bond, right? But if you follow the chronology a little further, you find out that the time period he's supposedly in jail over here is not actually what the movie says. It says that he was locked up in Alcatraz. It says that he escaped, and it says that he was recaptured, but it does not give a timeline as to when these things took place. For all we know as the observer, he was out for 25 years of that 30 years. We don't know how long they've been holding him, but supposedly he stole the microfiche involving the JFK assassination, right? That's why he was locked up in the first place, supposedly. Or that's one of the mentions in the movie. But in reality, he's locked up because the first time they picked him up as an illegal immigrant off of a cruise ship. That's how John Mason, the character John Mason, was arrested. Guess who happened to arrive on a cruise ship in San Francisco 2 months before that, according to the Bond canon?
Who?
James Bond disappears in San Francisco for like 9 months. Shows back up somewhere in the middle of the fucking Middle East over there as James Bond again a little while later, right? It doesn't make any sense. It's like between Dr. No and the next one. Is it From Russia with Love or Diamonds Aren't Forever? I can't remember the chronology, but he gets it down right. And while I'm not a huge Bond fan, I am a huge fan of
Rocky.
When filmmakers take the time to put together an elegantly crafted narrative. And it's kind of sad that James Bond's final Bond girl was Nicolas Cage. Gonna be a Bond bitch. Might as well go out big. Slay queen. Right. That's beautiful, babe. Now I'm gonna make you listen to this.
Fan theories is the idea that Michael Bay's 1996 action classic The Rock is in fact the last chapter of Sean Connery's run as James Bond. It's a fun idea, but does the evidence support this theory? Well, in honor of The Rock's 25th anniversary, I've looked at the evidence in way too much detail, and I've concluded that not only does the evidence support the fan theory, it lines up so well that there is no doubt in my mind that this man is the same character who defeated Blofeld and Goldfinger. By the end of this video, I guarantee that you'll either agree with me or you'll wonder why you spend 20 minutes of your life watching a cartoon penguin talking about movies. So let's begin. The Rock is the second feature film directed by Michael Bay. It's about decorated US war veteran Francis Hummel stealing a bunch of chemical weapons, taking hostages on Alcatraz, and holding the US government to ransom until reparations are paid to the families of the soldiers who died under his command. West Wing Chief of Staff Leo McGarry, FBI Director Jim Womack, and the Department of Defense enlist the services of convict and former British Special Forces operative John Mason to help the Navy SEALs break into Alcatraz, using his knowledge of the prison from when he broke out of it.
Yay!
Mason teams up with chemical weapons expert Nicolas Cage. No, really, we're meant to believe that. To break into Alcatraz and disarm the missiles before Hummel's deadline. Now, almost since this movie came out, there has been speculation that Sean Connery's John Mason is in fact James Bond. And you can see why.
Dun, dun, dun.
Trained SAS operative. Mason was the British operative who stole the files.
Oh, shit.
British intelligence.
But is this just a coincidence, or is John Mason actually James Bond? Well, I'm here to tell you that he definitely is. But before we start, the obvious disclaimer for some fellow James Bond geeks. Although Never Say Never Again stars Sean Connery as James Bond, it is not part of the Eon Productions film canon or continuity. My argument is that the Bond shown in the 6 Eon films starring Sean Connery is the same person who appears in The Rock, so I won't be looking at Never Say Never Again in this video. So let's start with the most obvious hiccup in the fan theory, the name. See, if you pay attention, you'll spot that Sean Connery's character in The Rock is called John Mason, not James Bond. So how can they be the same? Well, the most popular explanation is based on another fan theory that James Bond is in fact a code name for whoever takes on the role of 007, and that John Mason is in fact the real name of Sean Connery's.
What?
All right, how do we feel about that theory?
Yes.
That James Bond is a code name and 007 is the code for that
Yes.
code name? You buy it.
I do.
All right. I don't necessarily disagree, but the authors of the Bond franchise say no, James Bond is an individual, 007 is the code name. I prefer it the other way.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to me that a man who had the living hell beat out of him all the way through the 60s,
I'm
70s,
not a
80s,
sucker.
and 90s might not be the same person. Especially when you lay down the highly effeminate Roger Moore next to the, the uber masculine Chad Sean Connery, who adjusts his wife sometimes. Can you get any more? The definition of male toxic masculinity is beautiful. It's like seeing a rare unicorn running through the forest. It's like, wow, they really did exist. Finding
Was the MI6 agent?
Where did my thingies? That's it.
What thingies are you looking for?
Oh, I have the crappiest little earbuds on the earth, and so when I start a show, usually they die almost immediately.
Gotcha.
Because I use them to kind of keep track of the sound, so I'm always dealing with an echo, which is why I don't sometimes hear the echo that y'all have to deal with. And I'm half deaf. So
good.
too. All right, so we're going from this point with the assumption that James Bond is a code name. We know 007 is a code, but the individual or character known as James Bond are the different actors, different individuals posing as James Bond, or is it one individual played by different actors?
Yes. One individual.
What's a book? He says, "What's a book?" Deal hole. It's probably. No, I'm not going to say that. That's just evil. I like your work, dude. It's pretty cool. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't simp around following chicks just because, they're on somebody's show, dude. I love her to death and I'll go talk to her anytime, but I've got other things to do with my life than follow chicks around. I don't know. I'd love to do her Sasquatch shills with her, but that's about the limit. Sorry.
What are you talking about?
Ozymandias.
Oh,
It was like I missed Lioness on Undead Chronic show, and I'm like, okay, that happens when you're a busy person with a real life.
oh, you missed a show.
Yeah, I missed somebody's show somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Which, I mean, they're both much bigger YouTubers than me, but I stopped caring about crap like before I started my YouTube channel. So it doesn't have the effect on me most people think it should have, I guess. Hey, MLH, welcome to the show, bud. Good to see you. Black Watch, good to see you too. All right, so where we're at now, MLH, is we are trying to determine, is James Bond a person or a position? Is the code name James Bond the name for different people playing the character, or is the James Bond the person that is 007? I'm going to go with the person that is 007 because that's what the filmmakers have always said.
No, now that you say it the other way,
It does make
007
more sense
being
that
the
it's a character.
yeah. Play that footage. Let's see.
All right. Let's roll that beautiful baby footage.
James Bond. Now, I strongly disagree with this argument. The Eon films have consistently established that these are different actors playing the same character, and that character's real name is James Bond. Moore, Dalton, and Brosnan all refer to the death of his wife as shown in George Lazenby's OHMSS. Her name was Tracy Bond. She wouldn't marry a code name. In the Daniel Craig films, his parents' surname is Bond, and he is called Bond before he becomes 007. Putting this theory to bed once and for all, in No Time to Die, Lashana Lynch will play Agent 007 after James Bond's retirement. The code name is 007. The real person's name is James Bond. So why is Sean Connery called John Mason in The Rock? Well, it's simple. John Mason is the code.
All right. So James Bond is a person, an individual.
John Mason is a code name for James Bond.
James Bond is nefarious, in fact, famous for using artificial papers to enter and exit countries at will. He has pretended to be everything from a lower royalty all the way through to oil magnates and casino barons. He regularly uses artificial identities to move and go and do in the name of His Majesty's Secret Service. That's going to be my next. Is this a James Bond film? Have you seen that one?
No.
In Her Majesty's Secret Service, I think is the name of it.
Have you seen the Kingsman series?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. My fave.
Yeah, too much gun fu.
Oh, it's still
Not a
my
big
fave.
fan of gun fu. Gun fu doesn't work. I swear to God, you try that shit, I'll riddle your ass with holes. Shoot you so many times. I'll shoot your hands off.
I'll have my umbrella. I'll block them off.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you the umbrella. But hey Morgan, welcome to the show, bud. Fab Daddy 44, good to see you. Blue Unicorn. Did you know that Blue Unicorn is mountain fresh?
No.
Yeah, it's bona fide. I can prove it. I said it. It must be true. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So John Mason is, by all intents and purposes, a what do you call it? A pseudonym that he uses for travel. Is the theory that it's one of many, kind of like with Jason Bourne finding his basket of IDs.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he's got like 30 super secret spy. All right, well, James Bond's got 30 or 40. He uses a whole bunch of them to get here. He's got one where he's a black national, I guarantee you. Right? Bona fide member of the Black Panther Party. I mean, this is MI6 we're talking about. If he needs papers, he gets them. Right?
Right.
So if he needs papers to enter the US, he gets them. And they're good.
Right.
Right? So if he gets picked up due to some, bit of border patrol noncery or what the fuck ever, and they don't actually run him as a British spy, he doesn't come back as a British spy. He comes back as some random asshole named John Mason. Let him explain it. He does a better breakdown of the individuals, right?
All right.
James Bond frequently uses fake names.
Mr. and Mrs. David Somerset.
My name is James St. John Smythe.
I'm Mr. Arlington Beach, and you're Miss Stephanie Broadchurch, dear.
I am not.
You're going to have to trust me on this.
He also usually has fake documents to support his cover identity. If we assume Bond was captured, then it makes sense he was processed under the name listed in his fake passport, in this case, John Mason. What supports this idea even more is the fact that in The Rock, Womack says this.
This man has no identity, not in the United States or Great Britain. He does not exist.
So after capturing Bond, they clearly ran the John Mason name through the system and got nothing, because it's not a real name. But if Bond was captured by the Americans, wouldn't the CIA or MI6 see to it that he got released? Well, not necessarily. We consistently see how M puts Queen and Country above the life of his or her agents, including Bond. If M thought that it was in MI6's interest for Bond to stay captured, then he would leave him there. We can assume this is what happened in The Rock.
Of course, the British claim they never heard of him.
You might say, but what about the prisoner exchange in Die Another Day? Well, that just supports this argument. In that film, Bond was in jail for over a year until MI6 released him, and they only did that because they suspected he was revealing British secrets. It wasn't about rescuing Bond, it was about protecting Britain.
Because they need.
No shit.
So to me, it's entirely plausible that Bond was captured by the US while using the fake name of John Mason, put in Alcatraz, and MI6 decided to just leave him there. Right, that's the name sorted. Let's look at the timelines. In The Rock, we learned that Mason was
Incarcerated on Alcatraz in 1962. Escaped in 63.
So 1962 is our first data point, the same year Dr. No came out. Now the fan theory usually goes that Bond was first captured before the events of Dr. No, and assume that Dr. No is set in 1963 after he escaped Alcatraz. But that doesn't work. Dr. No is definitely set in 1962 or earlier, because in Jamaica, Government House is flying the British flag. Jamaica became independent on the 6th of August 1962, so there is no way Dr. No can take place in 1963 because the British no longer had control of Jamaica. So in my narrative, Bond was captured after the events of Dr. No and escapes Alcatraz before the events of the next film, From Russia with Love. If you haven't seen it, Dr. No ends with Bond destroying Dr. No's evil lair after the villain tried to disrupt a rocket launch at Cape Canaveral. He is rescued by Felix Leiter from the CIA, but because Bond is Bond, he would rather get it on with Honey Rider than be rescued, so he disconnects the tow rope. It's a typical James Bond movie ending, but let's be real about this. Leiter rocks up with a boat full of heavily armed Marines. They're not all there to rescue Bond, they're rounding up the henchmen who escaped from Dr. No's evil lair and are throwing them in the 1960s equivalent of Guantanamo Bay. Now, Leiter knows Bond is a spy, so made sure to rescue him, but after Bond gives him the slip, he must have just been picked up by some random Navy patrol and got lumped in with all the other prisoners. Without the CIA to vouch for him, Bond got locked up with the rest of the henchmen in Alcatraz under the fake name of John Mason. And of course, he escaped. In Dr. No itself, we actually see Bond escaping from a prison, proving he was more than capable of busting out of Alcatraz. Now, we've established that Dr. No can't take place after August 1962. Alcatraz prison closed in March 1963, but thankfully the timeline still works. See, in the next movie, Sylvia Trench complains that Bond disappeared for 6 months after going to Jamaica. So for this 6-month gap to work, Bond must have escaped in January 1963, meaning Dr. No and Bond's imprisonment in Alcatraz happened 6 months earlier in July 1962. Oh, not that anyone cares, but I checked and there was in fact a rocket launch from Cape Canaveral on 25th of July 1962, and it was even a Titan rocket like the kind shown in Dr. No. Yeah, I told you I was going to look at this in way too much detail. So this timeline perfectly matches to the exact day the first 2 Bond films, The Rock and actual world history. So far, so good. Now, before we look at the next data point, let's look at what The Rock has to say about why Mason was captured.
19.
All right. So far, we have an awful lot of ancillary, perhaps coincidental, corroborating evidence. We have a direct timeline that leaves Bond open to do all of the things that James Bond did without Alcatraz or his incarceration in The Rock so far being an issue. Okay. Now, of course, it becomes a bit of an issue later, but he even takes a poke at that pretty good. Get this backed up to where it needs to be.
So good. Now, before we look at the next data point, let's look at what The Rock has to say about why Mason was captured.
1962. J. Edgar Hoover is head of the FBI, some say the country. It's no secret he kept microfilm files of prominent Americans, British members of parliament, even the prime minister. Mason was the British operative who stole the files, but our bureau agents caught him at the Canadian border.
Now, this is where The Rock's own continuity gets a bit confused. Womack's comment implies Mason stole the microfilm in 1962, but the movie mentions twice that it contains the truth about the JFK assassination.
Truth be told, Judd, good to see you both.
So this microfilm can't
Tiff,
possibly have
you.
existed before November 1963. So we know for a fact that Bond's first imprisonment in Alcatraz was unrelated to the microfilm. Moving on, The Rock establishes that Mason was recaptured sometime after he escaped in 1963, but it never makes clear exactly when this happened. The closest thing we have to a data point on that is Mason's daughter, Jade. When Womack is asked why the notorious FBI founder J. Edgar Hoover didn't use Jade as leverage over Mason to reveal the location of the stolen microfilm, Womack says this.
Hoover was dead in 72. She wasn't born yet.
This tells us two things. One, that the daughter was born sometime after Hoover died in May 1972, meaning Mason was not in prison for all of 1972. The second thing it tells us is that Mason didn't steal the microfilm in 1962. He stole it after Hoover's death. Think about it. Are we meant to believe that Mason stole a top-secret government microfilm, escaped Alcatraz, and instead of returning to the safety of Britain, just lived undercover in the US for 10 years or so, fathering illegitimate children until he was recaptured again? No, we're not expected to believe that, because we know what John Mason was doing between 1963 and 1972. He was being James Bond. So let's return to the earlier narrative that Bond was first captured by mistake after Dr. No. He escaped, returned to MI6, and carried on being Bond until his last on-screen adventure, Diamonds Are Forever, which was released in 1971. Now this movie ends with Bond in America, and not just anywhere in America. He's on a cruise ship leaving a city on the west coast. Now the ship he is on is the SS Canberra. Where did the Canberra dock in 1971? That's right, San Francisco. So we can place Bond in San Francisco in 1971, not long before John Mason was recaptured in 1972. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into the history here, there's sources in the description, but suffice to say that in the early 1970s, there were some fairly big foreign policy disagreements between the British government and the Nixon administration. So with relations frosty and their best field agent already on American soil, it's not totally unrealistic for MI6 to send him in undercover to try and find the secret microfilm that has all the dirt on the British government. So after his cruise, Bond goes undercover in the FBI. In this time, he befriends Womack. The Rock makes it abundantly clear that these two men have a personal animosity, but never makes it clear exactly why. Well, this is why. Womack was the person Bond used to get access to the FBI in the first place, only to betray him by stealing the microfilm. So it's no wonder that Womack doesn't trust Mason and The Rock. Now, back to the daughter. While undercover in the FBI, Bond knocks up Jade's mother after a one-night stand, which is a very James Bond thing to do, by the way.
Meeting in a bar after a Led Zeppelin concert. Hit out. And that was the result.
Led Zeppelin toured North America in June 1972, so again, the real-world history checks out. After learning that Jade's mother was pregnant, Connery's Bond began to reflect on his life and career, something we have seen other Bonds do.
You do what I do for too long, and there won't be any soul left to salvage.
He decides to hang up the pistol and retire once and for all. But a few weeks earlier, something else happened. J. Edgar Hoover died on the 2nd of May 1972, leaving a leadership vacuum in the FBI. MI6 saw the opportunity for Bond to exploit the vacuum and steal the microfilm. M agrees to Bond retiring if he can pull off this one final mission. Bond steals the file and stashes it in the church in Kansas. Why Kansas? Well, maybe it's because in 1971, James Bond heard Blofeld say this.
Well, if we destroy Kansas, the world may not hear about it for years.
If you're British and don't know America very well, then doesn't that sound like a good place to hide something? So Bond stashes the microfilm in Kansas and flees to the border, only to be captured and locked up, this time for good. When he is captured and the FBI realize he was an undercover agent, Bond tells them his real name is John Mason to protect MI6. The FBI realize he is the same person who escaped Alcatraz in 1963. They lock him up, MI6 deny all knowledge of him, and Bond stays in prison until 1995. Okay.
All right. So where does this leave us? This leaves us in a position with a perfectly plausible timeline for James Bond, the British agent 007, to have been involved in several shenanigans after his lockup or his escape from Alcatraz, but before his disappearance after Diamonds Are Not Forever. Yes. Right? But what if I were to tell you there's another layer of stuff? The kid being born in a particular gap, the touring of the Grateful Dead, that kind of stuff, right? Even the arrival of the ship that Bond was supposedly on, that Bond never returned from for like months. He's missing, just gone. Nobody knows where the fuck he went. Where'd he go? Nobody knows. Well, apparently there's at least some anecdotal evidence to suggest that James Bond might have taken him a little couple of months over here, knocked up some chick in San Francisco, dipped the fuck out to the Midwest, hid some shit, and then scooted on back to MI6 to go complete what he was doing. Hey, Supercalifragilistic, welcome to the show. Ozzy, good to see you, bud. They're pretty much having it out down here in chat. They're disagreeing with each other quite succinctly. I've never liked the idea of James Bond using his real name, other than like Untethered Live says, because it sounds great, and the writer couldn't use it unless he did.
Checulate or MLH?
Yeah, bud. Appreciate you coming by. Hey, everybody's got a share button now. Like everybody got a community tab. Y'all
Yes.
can all share everything you see if you wanted to. Isn't that cool? But you know what? It's only cool if you do it.
Right.
Otherwise, you're a silent mute sitting in the corner, just playing with your own self. You can come out and play with us. They gave you the tools. You can use it to share links. You can use it to share platforms. You can use it to share pictures. You can use it to share basically like tweets, but that kind of lame. It's most useful for utilizing it for mentions. If you wanted to say or do or link something to a particular creator, you can at them. That's a powerful tool, especially if you're somebody with 2 subs. You do polls. You do all kinds of craziness. You just got to get clever with it. Like, for instance, this is one of my favorite things. There are a whole bunch of old Chilling with Sasquatches and After Darks and unedited versions of Sasquatch Shields that are available, but they're not available on my channel. They're only available on the people who shared those streams.
What's up, Truth Be Told?
Tabs. Hey, Truth, welcome to the show, bud. Good to see you. I just keep imagining his porn stash rubbing against my cheek, and it makes me horny.
Oh, my.
So let's put it all together. In July 1962, James Bond defeats Dr. No, but is mistakenly captured by the US Navy and locked in Alcatraz under the fake name John Mason. 6 months later, he escapes and returns to work for MI6. He carries on as Agent 007 until his final on-screen mission finishes with him in San Francisco in 1971. Bond is sent undercover in the FBI to try and locate the top secret microfilm. In 1972, he gets Jade's mother pregnant and decides to retire. M agrees, but only after he steals the microfilm. Bond steals it, but is captured and locked up again as John Mason, which the US believed to be his real identity, based on his previous incarceration record. In 1995, the events of The Rock take place. The timelines of the Sean Connery Bond films and The Rock match perfectly with both each other and real-world history. More than that, there are multiple times when the Mason-Bond similarity is made clear, not just in their backstory.
He was a highly trained SAS operative.
Former SAS types with easy smiles and expensive watches.
I decided I didn't want your child growing up without a father.
And since you first thought about me, ran to orphan. That's what I'd say you are.
Oh, I was trained by the best. British intelligence.
But in their characterization as well. John Mason shares James Bond's love of luxury brands.
I want a suite at the Fairlawn Hotel.
He makes Bond-like quips.
I hope you're insured!
Hi, I'm Plenty.
Well, I'm Stanley Goodspeed.
Of course you are.
And also says this, which I think is the most succinct summary of Sean Connery's Bond out there.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
All of the dialogue in The Rock supports the theory that John Mason is James Bond. There's just one gap. The only evidence that they might be different people is when Mason tells Hummel that he was an army captain, when we all know that James Bond is a commander in the British Navy. Well, you could just say it's Bond staying in character and leave it at that. But that's not good enough for me, and we've come this far, so get ready for the final deep dive, everyone, because this one will blow your freaking socks off. Francis Hummel, the villain in The Rock, is well established as a decorated war veteran.
General Hummel in Vietnam, I think he was a major at the time.
3 tours in Vietnam, Panama, Grenada, Desert Storm.
To be a major in the US Army, you need to have 10 years of service. Hummel did 3 tours in Vietnam, so we can assume he was fighting there from very early on in the US deployment. We also learn this about him.
Major Baxter and I, this is the last campaign in a career dating back to Tet 68.
The Tet Offensive happened in January 1968, so Hummel was already fighting in Vietnam at that time. During the Vietnam War, American soldiers had respite leave in Hong Kong. So let's say Hummel was there in 1967 before returning to the war in time to be there for the Tet Offensive in 1968. Now, who was in Hong Kong in 1967? That's right, James Bond, as we saw in You Only Live Twice. Now, it's not plausible that Hummel and Bond encountered each other in Hong Kong, but what is plausible is that Hummel picked up the newspaper one day and saw a front-page story about British Naval Commander James Bond being murdered, complete with photograph. It's a sad story for any soldier to read, but particularly one who was shown to have a huge amount of respect for the fallen. Maybe this story struck a chord with him, especially after he saw his men dying during some of the fiercest fighting in the Vietnam War. Maybe he saw the full honors bestowed to Bond by the Navy and wondered why it wasn't given to all fallen soldiers. Perhaps he went to pay respects to Bond's next of kin, only to find out that Bond's death was faked. The first time he learns that perhaps governments can't always be trusted. Maybe Hummel, reading about Bond's death, planted the seed in his mind that his government couldn't be trusted and that the US didn't care for the lives of its soldiers. A seed that would grow over the next 3 decades. Maybe the newspaper article that Hummel read in Hong Kong explains why he greets Bond like this.
Name and rank, sailor.
Army, actually.
Hummel is testing Bond to see if this is in fact the same naval officer he read about all those years ago. And look at how Mason reacts to the question. Bond knows that somehow Hummel suspects his true identity, but he doesn't buy it. He sticks to his cover story, and the film continues. Now, I admit this last bit is a bit of a stretch, but it's not a stretch by the standards of James Bond movies, or Michael Bay movies for that matter. Remember, Sean Connery's run of films alone expects us to believe things like face transplants and body doubles, space lasers, and a not at all problematic Japanese James Bond. By these standards, I'd actually say the Hummel story is pretty tame. Anyway, it's definitely less ridiculous than the retconning they did in Spectre.
It was all me, James. It's always been me. The author of all your pain.
So there you have solid gold proof that John Mason in The Rock is the same character as Sean Connery's James Bond 007. The continuity of The Rock and the Bond films perfectly overlap with each other, and more than that, they align perfectly with the real-world events happening at those times. Every single line of dialogue in The Rock about John Mason's backstory supports this theory, as does Sean Connery's portrayal of the character. So if you've watched this far, I hope you...
So what do you think? Heard we lose you. You were in chat a second ago. Are you running around playing with children? That's cool.
No, I'm shoving my face with a taco.
That's what she said. If God hadn't meant for you to eat, she wouldn't have made it look like a taco, burrito, or a sandwich. I don't understand. Where are we going with this again? Why am I horny?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it's because you said hey. Hold up. Hey.
Taco
All right, so with the theme of movies, I am moving on to... All right, so wait. What do we think about the whole James Bond Rock crossover there?
It's legit.
You like that?
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying is I love it when somebody takes the time to put together an excellent plot line that, while it might not be provable, is perfectly plausible. Like I said, they went through a lot of time and effort for the chronology of the James Bond films with Sean Connery to line up with The Rock's chronology in world.
I mean, they did a pretty good job of, I don't know, kind of proving it, though.
Right. No, he does a decent job of digging up the evidence of the work that was put in initially, because you know good and well the people making The Rock were James Bond nuts.
Right.
Right? I mean, look at the detail that went into it, the subtlety of some of the lines to imply without ever using the Bond franchise as a sounding board.
Right.
You watch it the first time, he's just some asshole. You watch it the second time, it's like, is he James Bond? He might be. Watch it a dozen times and you start going, oh yeah, definitely. That's definitely Bond. Because there's so many little things. But then there's other things that are in the way of it, like him claiming to be an army captain. Even that's not out of character for Mod. So it does ignore 80% of the franchise though. But it's so tasty, I can't resist it.
Right? I'm convinced.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I like it good enough. In my head canon, it works. We'll go with it. All based off a book. Exactly.
Feels right.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying that it's a beautiful bit of witchery that he pulled off putting that stuff together. What's up, Joe Cool, baby? I hear he's famous. You know who told me? Joe Cool.
Joe Cool ain't famous.
He told me he was. He
Joe who? Joe
me.
who? That's what they say. Joe who?
No, we got one that can see.
I love you, Joe Cool.
Love you, Joe Cool. He's going to be my side spoon.
Whatever.
When we go to the gulag.
Good, because I'm a fork, so I'm going to fork you up.
I might let you get me in the gulag. It's cold in there. We'll do a Sasquatch pile. It'd be great. Everybody be going.
That reminds me of that short you did.
Don't get me started. Oh. All right. So the next one is, what is anti-logic? And I've covered a previous video by this guy. I think I did a YouTube paleontology one where I went back and showed his first video, which is great. You should go check it out. This one, and I was torn between this one, where he's breaking down American Psycho as a Joker origin story.
Oh, yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
And the one where he's proven that, where he's headcanoning the Heath Ledger's Joker as the Riddler, pretending to be the Joker. That it makes more sense if he's the Riddler screwing the Joker over than that role played as the Joker. Because the Joker is insane and doesn't do those things. He's insane. Yes, he's meticulous and he plans stuff, but not like Edward Nygma. That man plans to the nth degree. Right? So name of the channel, I think I got it pinned in the chat already. Pretty sure. I can't look at it. I'm almost positive. And the name of the channel is What is Anti-Logic? And this particular video is American Psycho is a perfect origin story for the Joker. And this was, I think, the second video of his I watched, and it's awesome. He does a similar deep dive type, but his motif has nothing to do with actual factual associated films, but a headcanon of films that make sense to you. Right. So the filmmakers don't necessarily have to be associated, but the plot line flows through it so smoothly that you don't have to work hard to believe it.
Gotcha.
And I love the channel. It's great. ATL, good to see you, bud. Who else we got right there? Anybody else show up? I'm sure I'm missing people. I'm sorry, y'all. Kingdom of Vinland. I get to talking and I forget people exist. Welcome to YouTube. Adrian Carpenter. That is a good one. I like that. Looks French capital. Okay, anyway. I love this dude's voice too. It's got a real ASMR quality to it.
I did a video a while back called The Perfect Harley Quinn. And I talked about how Baby from the Devil's Rejects movies was a more accurate version of the character than the Margot Robbie one was. And for this video, I want to do something similar with the Joker and his origin story. I really didn't like the Joker movie when I first saw it, but I was able to recognize how good it was when I watched it again without the expectation that it was supposed to be comic accurate or fit into some cinematic universe. It was a great character study on what someone like the Joker would be like in a real world, and even though it was never meant to be an official origin story, it did introduce a really interesting idea regarding how the Joker sees the world. The Joker's been in so many different things, from comics to cartoons to video games, and he's always a little bit different in each one. And the crazy part is, we like the character so much, even though there's no official correct version of the Joker. So it seems like we just like the idea of the Joker.
There's an idea.
My personal favorite version of the character is from a graphic novel written by Brian Azzarello and beautifully illustrated by Lee Bermejo. It's about a low-level criminal named Johnny Frost that picks up the Joker when he's released from Arkham Asylum, and he gets to see the Joker go around Gotham taking over the underworld. And it's more of a Christopher Nolan style story where everyone's realistic, like Killer Croc just being a giant black guy with bad skin. But we're stuck with the Joker the entire book, and it allows us to see how unpredictable and terrifying he can be. He kills people for no reason. He plays Russian roulette just for a laugh, and he even cries when he's alone with Harley Quinn. This is the best version of the Joker.
Right. Now, I want you to think back to the Heath Ledger version of the Joker. That doesn't strike me as an individual who would just randomly pop a cap off in his own dome. He's got a plan, and he has to be alive to follow through with the plan. He might let Batman kill him because that's part of the plan. It proves Batman is just like everyone else and is susceptible to corruption, right? But I don't see Heath Ledger's Joker being the Joker. It makes more sense as a Riddler, pretending to be the Joker and suckering the whole world, including you and me, for a while. What you reckon?
Nothing.
How you like the Harley Quinn reference?
I like it.
Are you familiar with those movies?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me she wouldn't be effortless Harley Quinn. She wouldn't need nothing but little sprinkles in her hair and some sparkles on her cheeks.
For sure.
And a bat.
Yep.
Maybe some thigh-high leather boots if she's up for it.
Oh, yeah.
That's just for me. I'm sorry. My bad. I don't mean to be a creep. I just portray one on YouTube.
Because he's so antagonizing and realistically dangerous in a way that you really don't see anywhere else. Now, I think it's safe to say that Christian Bale is the best Batman, right? I mean, I liked Ben Affleck, but after the Justice League, it just felt like he was a random Suicide Squad member that was only really there for the poster. And Michael Keaton wasn't a bad Bruce Wayne, but as Batman, he never really looked like he can actually kick anyone's ass. Christian Bale was the perfect Batman because he not only looked like he could physically be Batman, but he also could pull off that smug, trust fund kid arrogance that a real-life Bruce Wayne would have. But the debate on who the best Joker isn't so simple. Some will say it's Jack Nicholson or Joaquin Phoenix, while others will say it's Heath Ledger or even Mark Hamill. And even a few 13-year-olds on Reddit might say it's Jared Leto, but has anyone considered that Christian Bale is not only the best Batman, but also the best Joker too? What? The Joker movie opened the idea that maybe the Joker's only Gotham's great.
All right, I'm gonna let y'all wrap y'all's heads around that idea for a minute. What, sticking a gun to his head and pulling the trigger sounds like the Heath Ledger Joker? Well, then explain to me why he had so much of a drawn out plan in front of him that he had to be present to pull off. I don't believe he would stick a barrel in his mouth, pull the trigger, because he would have to be there to complete the plan. Dying today is not part of that plan unless Batman kills him. And that is not only a catching point for the Joker, who believes that everyone can be corrupted by chaos, but the Riddler, who believes everyone can be outsmarted and undone by unfortunate circumstances. A similar sort of concept, but a bit more convoluted. I swear it makes more sense than anything else I've seen. It explains why Heath Ledger was such an excellent Joker. Because he wasn't. He was pretending to be the Joker. Does that make any sense at all from any angle? I'm sorry, we're way off freaking topic over here. Yeah, sure. No, both of them will kill random people. Edward Nygma was regularly using humans for test subjects in basic, like, stupid experiments about, like, whether or not people could breathe, I don't know, carbon dioxide. Turns out, no, they can't. But we probably need to repeat the experiment to be sure. That's an Edward Nygma thing. He would just do it because it's part of the method. Whereas the Joker, he does it because it's the next following most chaotic event. So sticking a gun in his mouth and pulling the trigger is perfectly fine for the real Joker. but I don't get that impression from Heath Ledger.
You
Yes,
watch weird shit.
lots of weird shit, sure, but exactly, Andrew. The Joker was completely psychopathic, while the Riddler is a sociopathic and highly sociable sociopath at that. Right? The Joker's a barely functioning psychopath. He's just as liable to pistol whip you to death with a 6-foot long gun as he is to say, hi, how are you doing? And have a cappuccino with you. These are equally likely events in the Joker's future. Edward Nygma, the Riddler, is a totally different ball of wax. This man was planning on you to have the cappuccino before he went to bed last night.
Who fucking cares?
Okay. All right.
Greatest villain inside of his own mind. And I honestly never considered this before, but it did present an interesting parallel with American Psycho. And I know I'm not the first person to think that American Psycho felt like a Joker movie, but there's so many details in this movie that make it hard to not see it as a Joker origin story. For everything the Joker movie did right, I never liked the idea of him starting off as such a loser. And I know that's basically what every other origin story about him says, but the Joker always seems like he's accustomed to having money and living an upper-class life. The way he talks is proper and calculated, and he doesn't use slang, and he has a really clear understanding of money and politics and psychological manipulation. It just doesn't feel like a poor comedian or a low-level criminal would speak so well or be so skilled in so many different areas. There's been a few different Joker origin stories over the years where he's a failed comedian or a bank robber or even just a mid-level criminal. And they all have the same basic idea. There's this ordinary guy that ends up falling into a vat of chemicals and he becomes a criminal mastermind. And toxic waste or chemicals giving someone superpowers isn't a new idea, so it is possible that the Joker did gain some increased intelligence, but I always thought that it made more sense for the Joker to be successful and intelligent before he turned into the clown. And it was the fact that he was stuck looking like a clown that pushed him over the edge.
Yeah.
American Psycho is the perfect origin story, and it explains why falling into a vat of chemicals.
You see where this is going, right?
Yeah.
And tell me it don't fit like a glove. You've seen American Psycho, right?
Yeah.
Tell me that asshole couldn't have just fucked up his face and become the Joker
Oh, for sure.
without any stretching or growing as a person. He just bumped his head, walked outside, poof, he's a criminal mastermind. He was already a criminal mastermind. He just stopped caring about the details.
Right.
It's beautiful. I love this kind of stuff. It's great to me. I know I'm giving Untethered Live over their hives. He hates this shit. He thinks it's all wrong and inappropriate. That things were written by people and that they don't cross over. You don't put your peas with your carrots. Your carrots and your peas are separate.
No. Peas and carrots, Jenny. We're like peas and carrots.
Peas and carrots. Well, he was still hanging around just like peas and carrots. Absolutely. But I'm digging on this channel so hard. I've watched everything he's done. He only puts out a video like once every 4 months or so, but then he might drop 3. So stick around. More to come.
Would turn someone into the Joker, because the chemicals explain how he became the Joker, but none of the origin stories really explain why. Because it's a really big leap to go from being a normal guy to being one of the greatest criminals ever. And I'm not saying that someone couldn't do that. What I'm asking is why someone would do that. Well, American Psycho actually explains why the Joker is the way he is better than any other explanation I've seen. Our introduction to Patrick Bateman is more of an introduction to his environment. It's rigid and lifeless, with snobby millionaires eating swordfish meatloaf and squid ravioli. You know, the type of place that Gavin Newsom would eat during a lockdown. But the real introduction to Patrick Bateman is in his perfect-looking apartment. The entire place lacks any color or personality, and it looks more like this setup for an open house and not somewhere a person actually lives. This is in direct contrast to what the Joker surrounds himself with. He enjoys the chaos and the color, and this is a great explanation to why the Joker is so obsessed with chaos, because his life before was so boring and plain. And then we get a few minutes of Patrick's morning routine, and he spends a lot of time worrying about his face.
In the morning, if my face is a little puffy, I'll put on an ice pack. After I remove the ice pack, I use a deep pore cleanser lotion. And on the face, an exfoliating gel scrub. Then I apply an herb mint facial mask.
All right, you take this individual who is so metrosexual that he literally rebuffs his face every morning with an ice pack, right?
Right.
And then you give him scars that are completely irremovable. His psychopathic nature goes from being the well manicured, well mannered pretty boy to being your freaking worst nightmare. That asshole you don't want to meet at 2 a.m. in an alley because he's not there just puking over a garbage bag because you drank too much rum. He's there to kill people.
Yeah.
It's easy to see. To me, anyway. I don't know. How does chat feel about it? Loves to slap. Good
I
God.
always use an aftershave lotion with little or no alcohol, then moisturizer, then an anti-aging eye balm followed by a final moisturizing protective lotion.
Now, it's not hard to imagine a man who puts on 9 different face creams every morning would completely lose his mind if he was stuck looking like a clown. Because this is exactly what happened with the Joker. Once he saw his reflection, he kind of lost his mind.
Mirror.
Even though he's supposed to be a normal human, the Joker has something that can honestly be considered a superpower. He's really good at disguising himself and hiding in plain sight. It's like no one being able to recognize that Superman is Clark Kent without the glasses. But for a person that goes out of his way to stand out with the purple suit and ridiculous henchmen, the Joker loves wearing disguises and dressing up like other people. And he's able to move around without anyone knowing where he's going or where he came from. Well, Patrick doesn't actually dress up like anyone, but he does pretend to be other people, and he's always being mistaken for someone else.
Hello, Halber Stram.
Hey, Floyd, what do you say?
Burning the midnight oil, Mr. Smith?
One of the things that makes the Joker so interesting is the fact that his backstory really doesn't explain how he became so smart or how he developed so many useful skills. But seeing Patrick naturally use this ability would explain how the Joker is so good at doing this. One of the most memorable scenes in American Psycho is the infamous business card scene. Patrick's obsessed with having the best card, even though to everyone else it's really not a big deal. It's basically just something to talk about. But to Patrick, it's so important that he's angry to the point of sweating. All of Gotham's villains have a specific calling card for their crimes, clues to let everyone know who is responsible. So, wouldn't it make sense for the Joker to have an obsession with his card, since his entire persona is based on one? Everyone knows the Joker has a pretty twisted sense of humor. Well, Patrick Bateman definitely does too.
What her head would look like on a stick.
Now, I think the failed comedian thing makes sense, but the Joker never actually tries to make anyone else laugh. All of his jokes are just for his enjoyment. He's so entertained by his own thoughts that he doesn't really care if anyone else is laughing. Well, Patrick Bateman's the exact same way.
Is that why you lost it? Insider trading? Just joking.
And I know it only happens once, but Patrick gets really triggered when someone laughs at him. This kind of feels like something the Joker would have a problem with. Because even though he likes to laugh, he really doesn't like anyone else around him laughing. There's just way too many coincidences in this movie to ignore. Even small details like Patrick liking blonde women, and the only woman we ever see the Joker with is blonde. But when we add in the idea that every Joker could be hallucinating some of the things that he does, it's easy to imagine that before he became the Joker, he could have been having these American Psycho type mental breakdowns on a regular basis, and he could have ended up shooting Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Oh shit. What about you? Oh shit.
And it edits together so perfectly. Even the coloring, the time of night, the area of Manhattan they were in when it happened. It's almost too good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great. I love this kind of stuff. Yeah, well, I like blondes, brunettes, redheads. I like my women just like I like my coffee. Sweet, hot, and creamy.
And I know that only happened in the '89 Batman, but it's something that would make sense in the context of a Joker movie like this. In my last Joker video, I suggested that maybe the Joker made up Batman and all the other villains in Gotham, and that was the joke. Costume villains and heroes in a real world. But it is an interesting coincidence that a man who has so many similarities with the Joker would have a last name that's only one letter away from being Batman. Almost like Patrick Bateman is Batman and the Joker, and his fractured mind is Gotham City. Like all the villains are just personalities that Patrick has so he can explore different types of depravity. And the times when he's normal, he sees himself as Bruce Wayne, and he keeps all the other personalities locked away in his mental prison. So what do you think? Does American Psycho make a great Joker movie? And do you like the idea of the Joker being more like Bruce Wayne before he became the clown? Or do you like him being a sympathetic character that started off as a loser?
So what's your opinion? American Psycho Joker origin story? It's like I said, what is anti-logic?
Yeah, the ending of his thing really got me there.
Well, that whole Batman Joker Batman thing, that just kind of goes to the actor. Like I said, he does a lot of headcanon stuff. None of it's actually linked in any real way other than the fact that the same movie companies and the same writers and the same directors and stuff all got together and did things, and they all talked to each other. So headcanons kind of work sometimes. This Captain Midnight, he's got his thing that he does. In this case, he's all right. Can you think of a good movie that you know was a good movie but just didn't do well?
Say it again.
A good movie, a well-made good movie that by all rights should have been huge. Like, I'll give you an example. Princess of Mars.
What?
Princess of Mars. John Carpenter.
I've never seen it, never heard it.
Right, exactly. No, Disney spent a mint on that movie. It looks great. It sounds great. It has an excellent story. It's beautifully made. It's well edited. The plot's a little chinky, but that never really bothered anybody before. So why should it bother anybody then? It flopped. It had a bad PR week leading up, and it went kind of crappy on release. John Carter. That's it. John Carter. Princess of Mars. But it's a beautiful movie, and by all rights should have been a major franchise builder, but it died. It was stillborn at the theaters for whatever reason. This is a case for another one. Do you remember Aragon? You probably don't. All right, so Aragon was a teen, an angsty teen dragon movie. And it was made in the middle of that whole How to Train Your Dragon thing. And by all rights, it should have taken off and become a huge franchise. But due to bad PR and unfortunate
Garbage Pail Kids. I love Garbage Pail Kids.
But by all rights, it should have done well, and it didn't for whatever reason. In this case, this guy thinks he's figured out why it's not doing well.
Dragonheart.
Dragonheart's a good one. The first one was really good. The second one wasn't absolutely horrible. The third one was pretty bad.
This video is brought to you by Brilliant. When I made my video about the Narnia franchise,
and I'm going to watch the damn
one
ad
thing I was
because I like
really
this
struck by in the comments was just how many people said things like, well, at least it's not Aragon. A film that seems to be almost universally disliked from what I can tell. I honestly hadn't thought about Aragon in a long time, and I definitely hadn't revisited the 2006 movie since it was released in theaters. Which, on at least some level, is kind of surprising, because at one point, Aragon was one of my favorite books I'd ever read. It was a novel that meant a lot to me, both because it was so accessible and exciting to 12-year-old readers, but also because its author was a teenage homeschooled kid from Montana. And I was also a homeschooled kid from Montana. Add to that the fact that I was a big Lord of the Rings fan, and it was hard to imagine a book that felt more pitched to me specifically. So, of course, I was hugely excited for the movie. Now, this was before I was on the internet much, but I remember trying to get my hands on any scrap of news about the project in magazines like Empire and Entertainment Weekly. I remember I saved up money to buy the PS2 tie-in game that came out a month before the film. Like, I was off the charts excited for this thing. Then the movie actually came out. I saw it once. I remember being crushed by how it completely failed to live up to my expectations, but then I just kind of rarely thought about it again. That is...
Hold up. The original Dragonheart Dragon was Sean Connery. Later, Liam Neeson stepped in and did the voice. Yeah, keep it squared and straight. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm almost positive the first one was Sean Connery. Seems like a party. Pity I wasn't invited.
Until I started working on this video. I wanted to, after all these years, finally try to pinpoint what left me, and so many other fans, feeling disappointed back in 2006.
Fulfill the legacy of the legendary Dragon Riders.
One thing I noticed about this movie is that compared to some failed franchise starters, like The Last Airbender, it feels a lot more forgotten, or at least not as discussed. And having watched both movies again in the past 12 months, I think it's easy to see why. Where The Last Airbender is filled with bizarre choices and memorably awful moments, Eragon just kind of feels limp. It feels like a movie written and directed by an algorithm, and I'm sure to studio executives, it felt like a very safe bet. But what it ended up accomplishing, above all, is erasing any of the charm and imagination that the novel had. Don't get me wrong, Eragon the novel, in retrospect, isn't a masterpiece or anything. Like, it's mostly a fairly straightforward riff on...
Yeah, no, it's a fantasy adventure Star Wars kind of thing. Instead of having an X-Wing, he's got his dragon. Instead of having a lightsaber, he's got a sword. They learn a little bit of magic together, and they move off like Peter and the Magic Dragon. It's not even a stretch. So it's your classic hero story. But like he says, it feels very Uncanny Valley-ish. The story follows too safe of a narrative, I guess you could say. It has no corners and is not dangerous in any way. It's all soft and fluffy and feels like a consolation prize because you showed. It's the participation trophy of movies. And I hear you, Andrew. I dig it. It's a really good movie. When you sit down and watch the film, there's nothing in particular wrong with it. It just did not work at the time that it came out.
Do you think that a Mr. Freeze film would work?
It could if it was done properly. Like you would have to stay away from the guy that played Drax. Don't let him be Mr. Freeze, please, because that's not Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is all right. Mr. Freeze was the hall monitor who thought he was funny in high school and then grew up to become a big old weightlifter because he didn't want to be picked on anymore. And so he tells these stupid slapsticky jokes. I don't know how to explain it. You'd have to go read the comic books to be like, to find somebody that can do Mr. Freeze, and I'm down. I'm so down. I mean, it's not, I want somebody that fits Mr. Freeze like Ryan Reynolds fits Deadpool.
He does do it well.
He practiced. He took every Deadpool related, tangentially related job to the theaters and movie places that were making Marvel movies in any era. You go back and look, and Ryan Reynolds is in the roster of actors that signed up for absolutely every role in the movie. But every time there was a Deadpool anything, he's there. Whether it was done by a 12-year-old guy in a science class or an actual movie, if it was Deadpool, he volunteered. He'd do it. What's up, press? People,
Welcome in, Press
welcome to the
Harder.
show. But he's got so many channels, it's easier just to call him people.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of them. At least 3. He's probably had more channels stolen from him than most people have started. All right, so let's see what the second half of this is going to look like. I really like this dude because he really goes into it.
Star Wars told in a fantasy setting, which is pretty understandable considering it was written by a 15-year-old. But it's also the work of someone who cared deeply about the story he was telling, and that comes through loud and clear, even rereading it now. The movie just doesn't feel this way, and I think a large part of that is it invests so little energy into making you care about Aragorn himself. While not a complex character in the first book, Christopher Paolini did a great job of making you care about this guy, taking the time to really lead you through his small village life and introducing you to people that he cares about. People like Roran, Katrina, and Sloane. They remain a big presence in the series, but they're basically non-existent here. Sure, we at least get a scene or two with Roran, but there's never any sense of place to where Aragorn lives. It all just feels very generic fantasy farm. So when it all comes crashing down and he must abandon his home, it just feels like another boring plot point that we need to get through. Almost
Right. So you're introduced to the characters. The characters are there for all of 37 seconds. Then it's burned down, and you don't care that their shit was burned down because you don't have any investment in the story up to this point. If you didn't read the books, you know nothing about these people. And if you did read the books, nothing in the movie is lining up to what occurred in the books. So there's a discontinuity there that is literally world breaking.
Literally.
How many times have I said it?
Oh, no, you've actually done pretty well tonight.
I've been practicing not saying it unless I mean it. Stop being mean.
I'm
Thought
not.
we all loved each other over here.
Yes, absolutely.
Watching you.
It's like the filmmaker can barely be bothered with it, where the book is actually good at giving the reader a sense of this grand adventure unveiling, with everything Aragorn cares about being torn away from him. The filmmaker behind the movie, Stefan Fangmir, is a successful visual effects artist, having worked on everything from Terminator 2 to Saving Private Ryan to Game of Thrones. But this movie is the only film he directed. And it kind of feels like a movie made by someone with far more experience on the technical end of things. For the most part, the acting in this thing is just so bad. I feel like so many of the failed franchise starters of the past 20 years come back to this. Viewers just can't connect to the characters in the same way they did in the source material because the movie versions are stiff, unconvincing, and are unable to sell the emotional weight of the story. I'll just say it, Ed Spielers is terrible as Aragorn. Now, he's gone on to a career in things like Downton Abbey, so I'm sure he's a perfectly solid actor now, but he's in way, way over his head here. Even his reaction shots are bad, coming off as really, really over the top, like he thinks he's in an SNL sketch. Jeremy Irons is really the only standout here as Brom. Like, say what you will about the cuts they made to the character's story, Irons is at least really, really committed to the role. His wary cynicism and dry sarcasm are probably the high point of the movie for me, as he manages to turn really basic lines into moments that actually feel genuine, which no other actor in this film manages to pull off. And that includes John Malkovich as the evil King Galbatorix. He's just bad here. But a large part of that is that he doesn't need to be in this film at all. Galbatorix isn't in the first novel, he's just mentioned quite a bit. And I think that worked wonders. Like, as a kid reading it, I had really built up in my head just how terrifying this guy was. That's all lost the moment he's skulking around doing badly written Skeletor monologues. And what's worse is the time his scenes take up could have been better spent investing us more in Roran, Arya, or Murtagh. Now, I will cut this movie slack in one area where the novel is just tough to adapt, and that's the relationship between Saphira and Aragorn. Being able to communicate solely through thoughts is something that's never going to be easy to portray on screen. And that is a large part of the book. In fact, the relationship between Aragon and his dragon is probably the best thing the series has going for it, and gives it a different flavor than Star Wars, despite the plot hitting many of the same beats. The film tries its best, and I actually think the first flight scene is one of the best in the movie, but it also has to cut down on the dialogue between the two a lot, adding Saphira to the large pile of characters who are kind of turned into shadows of themselves. Rachel Weisz isn't even that bad here as
Hey,
Saphira.
Axel.
It's
Welcome
just
to the
that she
show.
clearly recorded her lines in a sound booth somewhere, and as a result, the performance feels really disconnected from anyone she's in a scene with. I could keep going down the line of actors who give awkward, not very good performances, because that's most of the cast. But I think you get the point. Whether it's due to the director being inexperienced working with actors, or because he was just more interested in the visual effects side of things, the end result is the same. The performances in this movie are almost uniformly boring and uninspired. Jeremy Irons aside. And most of the cast has been good in other things too, so I really have to chalk this up to a problem with the direction. In the end, the movie did okay, if far from great, at the box office, grossing $249 million worldwide on a $100 million budget, and that seems pretty fitting for this one. It wasn't a success, but it also wasn't some historic bomb that went down in history. It was received around the world with one big shrug, and that's kind of all it's been since. A movie that's mostly remembered for disappointing fans of the books, if it's remembered at all. Now, the novel was not a masterwork of literary fiction, but it told its story with all the excitement and passion of a young author eager to show off these characters he'd spent countless hours creating. The movie just doesn't have that. It feels like the work of people who know there's some money to be made on this property and are just using the skeleton of the story to deliver a by-the-numbers 2000s fantasy movie. There's nothing here. Even the charming rough edges of a book written by a teenager are gone, sanded down into something instantly forgettable.
The destiny of a boy. You're the next Dragon Rider. The power of a friendship. You can hear my thoughts.
If you decided to watch along and felt your senses being slowly dulled over the running time of Aragon, this is where I need to step in and recommend Brilliant. If you're someone who wants to...
All right, so do you even remember that movie? Oh, she left.
A little bit.
Oh, you are here. A little bit?
Little bit.
Bit of it. Okay. All right, so the premise is exactly what you would expect. It's a kid, turns out he's the chosen one. He's got to go get his pet dragon. His pet dragon finds him. They run off and topple an empire, right? But it's such a safe story. You're not tied to anything in it. It is completely generic. And while it is a beautifully made, a beautifully shot, and well-rounded tale, it doesn't connect with the readers of the franchise and doesn't bring in new viewers to the franchise. So it was a mediocre non-failure, I suppose.
Gotcha.
I think Dragonheart 2 was the first one that Liam Neeson was the voice in. I think. Not positive, but I think. For some reason that tastes right in my brain. And we're not doing that. That's pretty much all I've got for that end of the show. You got anything you want to bring up?
No, I'm good.
You are good. I know that, girl. We know that. Not sure where to go from here. Really didn't have much more of a plan than that. Because I love that type of stuff. I love promoting those types of channels. You know?
Yeah, no, it was definitely new and cool to me. I like the channel. Yeah, the other channel. Yeah.
I can't ever remember the names. I know one of them is What is Anti-Logic, and the other one's that Blue Penguin guy, Pentax or something.
Yes.
I can't remember the names. That's why I have their link saved over here. And the chat should be available, so anybody watching it should be able to pop up at any time during the chat while the actual video is playing, so that It's also linked in the description if anybody wants to go check it out. Can't really think of any other way to credit them or any more of a way. I guess I could have written a dazzling script. What's the point in that? I was watching an MLH show. Who has time for that?
I don't know, but I mean, cheers to no technical difficulties.
Right.
High five.
Absolutely. Don't tell them. They don't know. I mean, I'm still amazed that this gimmick is working at all.
That's awesome.
It also, I got YouTube Premium, so I'm not having to deal with the ads popping up and hitting me with instant copyright claims.
Right.
So I'm more willing to play with copyright claims. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because if I know who's claiming them, I know whether or not to dispute them. But if I've got a commercial in a live stream and they copyright claim something, it's probably that commercial. I can go edit it out, but I either have to download it, do the editing, let YouTube edit it, and they might take upwards of 20 minutes out of it for a 15-second commercial.
Right.
You never know. I have no way of telling what it is they're going to cut out of it. They cut anything related to copyright out of it. So I once had an almost 2.5-hour live stream that I let YouTube chop, and it cut it down from 2.5 hours to like 43 minutes. What? Most of that was me and you, and I think like Untethered Live and a couple other people talking with some random BS playing in the background, and it was just commercials playing back to back, basically. I don't know why that got me copyright claimed or why they would remove it as a copyright claim, but it was weird. But okay, whatever you're going to do with it. Well, Smoking Auditor, I know a couple of creators who swear by going with a script every case. They at least have one on hand so that whenever they get off topic, they can look over and be like, okay, well, that's where I'm supposed to be, and they go back to talking about it. Me, I'm far too ADD to do that. If I were to write down a script for a show, the show would be a totally different show by the time I went live. Absolutely. Oh yeah, y'all go check out her Friday stream. She's doing some Friday type stuff. Sasquatch approves. Might even participate, don't know. Depends on what's going on. I don't know about Saturday night either. I've yet to get I've been trying to get a scheduled guest for Saturday, and holidays between Christmas and Thanksgiving's a hard time to get people to guarantee. What time are you doing your fuckery Friday?
9 Central.
Okay.
It's gonna be fun.
Can I come play?
Yes.
You sure?
Bring clips.
Bring clips. Any particular genre of clips? I have a whole folder over here of show clips.
Whoever you just want to say fuck you.
It's I said I have a whole folder of stuff over here that's privated that I save as show clips that I've got for future shows, where I'm trying, like, I want to do a 2-hour expose on Dogman. And the way I'm going to do it is going and getting the different types of extinct species that fit the description of Dogman, and we're going to watch everything we can find about Dogman and these extinct species that match the descriptions of the different stories about Dogman. Figured to take about 2.5 hours. I got another one that I want to do on the different types of Sasquatch. So you've got the big 12-footers over on the West Coast. You've got the Indiana grassman who are like 5'9". Then you've got the skunk ape down here on the East Coast that is more like 6 foot to 4 foot to 6 foot type. Why, I don't know, but it doesn't strike me as odd that different animals would be different sizes across the continent. In fact, it even matches fairly well with the bear sizes.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't know there were so many.
Well, you get your really, really big bears up in the upper Northwest. That's where your grizzlies are, and sometimes your polar bears wander down out in the mountains and whatnot. I mean, they're up there.
I don't eat pepper jack cheese, but I like Colby Jack cheese. Just saying.
I like New York extra sharp cheddar. It's excellent. That
Nice.
shit's so sharp it'll cut you. It's good stuff.
Like
And
some
so
mozzarella.
I've got a bunch of different videos about different subjects that I've already like accumulated
Mhm.
and just haven't done anything with because it's not complete. Yeah, I know I keep saying that when I talk about stuff I've got that I haven't done. It's not finished. I'm not done with it. And meanwhile, y'all are going, just put out something. We don't care. Something, anything. Take a picture of your dog. Send it. Send it harder. Grilled cheese. Okay. Yeah, man, a good grilled cheese is hard to beat. Me and my cousin went to I guess you'd call it a field party, and we were sitting out there. It's about a 3-day long field party. We were sitting out there about the middle of the second day, and everybody's starving, hungry. I think we had like $4.25 amongst us, and we went and got a bunch of grilled cheese sandwiches. We basically went and got a bunch of bread and cheese and grilled some grilled cheese sandwiches and sold them for $0.25 a piece, and then went and bought more bread and cheese. Sold more grilled cheese sandwiches. We did that shit for 3 days. I wouldn't say we made a profit, but boy, we had a hell of a time, let me tell you. Best buddies of all the bands because they couldn't eat neither. Wasn't nothing but beer. What's up, Moose? No, I'm not talking to myself. There's people in the box. Dog looks at me like I'm just casting some kind of sorcery every time he walks in on one of these. He like looks at me and then looks at me looking at the camera and then looks at the camera and looks at me, shakes his head, and walks out the room. Dog might have more sense than I do. They didn't have vets where I bought my pepper jack. Wait a second. You like your cheese like you like your women? I got to hear this. This is a new one for me.
Warm and melty.
Yeah, I guess a good pepper jack might bite you a little bit, won't it? Slightly dangerous and somewhat bloody. I don't know. Crunchy?
Oh, no.
I don't know. Confuses Moose because he doesn't know he exists. Can't hear us, see us, or smell us. Yeah, no, but he sees where I'm looking, and he looks at me and looks at me looking at the ring light, and looks at me and then looks back over there and goes and walks away. Because he knows as long as I'm staring at this damn ring light, I'm not going to walk him. But he comes and checks anyway. And if I shut the door, he will body himself against the door every 10 minutes just to see if I've opened it. He'll just walk up, put his way in because he's like 102 pounds. He's like, bam, that door bell.
Creamy yet firm. Okay. Well, I guess.
I figured you'd go. With a good blue cheese. And slightly moldy and still alive. I don't know. Creamy yet firm. I prefer my coffee line. The coffee line's better.
I'm hazel-eyed blonde. Sorry. Guess I'm out of there.
Oh. All right. So do you reckon it's safe to drop a link in chat, or
Yeah.
the troll going to come after me?
It's possible, but I mean, have at it. We got.
Well, they only got like 20 minutes to do it, so good
There you
fucking luck. All right. And for the most part, as far as I've been able to determine, as long as you keep them on the little screen, it takes them longer to figure it out. Right? Like Untethered Live had a bad go of it, and this last time he messed with StreamYard at all, and it was sad. But I just told him, I'm like, dude, be careful. Make sure you keep your finger on the trigger because the type of channel you have, trolls are just going to come out the woodwork. You can't help it.
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, oh, I'm watching it. And no joke, the very next 3 people that came up all hit him with the proms. In a row, man. And I haven't seen that guy since. I do know him. I'm one of those assholes who'll take a sock account and subscribe to all of your sock accounts.
Right.
I can keep track of them.
I got you.
Right? I don't even say that. I ain't never commented on a couple of those. They're just over there. Just so I can go subscriptions. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, what my name doing in your mouth? Does it taste good? Chewy. What's up, Strictly Strange? Hey, my man did a viral video the other day, and it's a good one. It's a real
I
good
had
one.
a viral one.
How big did it go?
Not that big.
What the fuck are you talking about then? Well, how big did it go? Tell me. I'll decide if it's viral.
No.
You're just not going to tell me.
No.
Am I going to have to go look?
Yes.
You suck.
I
mention
know.
how much you suck.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Oh. We all suck down here. Let's see.
It's a short.
Skadoosh. What we got? 1.7.
It's viral in my head.
Was that the 1.7? You got several
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
I've been keeping track. I haven't seen one go super huge. 2.5. That's good.
Yeah, my highest video is the post office.
Where did that one cap out, Strictly Strange? Last time I checked it, that thing was like running around 35,000 views. Something like that, 25,000. I can't remember. And what's funny is like I was the third viewer and I went, dude, I'll be seeing you at 1 million subs. Like 12 hours later, he sent me a text at 2 a.m. going, man, my phone won't stop vibrating. It just keeps going off. It's died. 39,000. Yeah. That's big. That's pretty good.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. But it was a good one. It was a real good one. He nailed it with that one. And he's one of those that glows.
Right, Blue Unicorn? Like, I mean, 1,700 is a lot for me. I'm like, shit.
Right.
And I got that like within, I don't know, a couple hours.
Y'all go check out some of Blue Unicorn's work. If your brain is working and functioning properly, it won't be. Him and Strictly Strange both in different ways. Because Blue Unicorn makes me think that my sense of numerology got curb stomped by 3 guys named Chico outside of a Waffle House at 2 o'clock in the morning. Meanwhile, Strictly Strange makes me feel like Picasso would make reaction videos of his shit.
That was Strictly Strange.
Cavendish. I don't know. I don't get it. But it's whatever you want to make of it, though. Axioms Underground. What's up, bud? You're the one I missed earlier. I seen it go by and I couldn't remember who it was. Blue Unicorn is mountain fresh. That was freaking beautiful, man.
At least play my video, homie.
Which one? You never did specify.
Yeah,
This one?
my
The biggest
biggest flex. Yeah.
All right, bitches. I'll play your video.
Thank you.
Love you. See if I can get it right. Is that close enough? Where's the sound?
Oh, you have to unmute it. It's muted.
Kindness. Well,
That shit coming in hot, honey.
anybody ever been taught the phrase "kill him with kindness"? Well, that's a good one. That's good. But sometimes don't you think it'd be a lot easier with a knife? And maybe just call your knife kindness.
Chicks who smoke weed have tighter hoo-has because every cough is like 40 kegels. Can we all take a moment of fucking silence to acknowledge the fact that despite the bullshit, I have yet to turn into a serial killer?
My biggest flex is I'm exactly who I say I am, and I don't gotta fake shit.
Yay. Frankie.
Not bad. I like that. I'll even give it a like because I like that.
Oh, now I can do it without the little, TikTok thing and stuff. If you go check out, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Have you looked at the numbers on your videos and determined exactly how it ratios on you? Do you get like one good, 1 in 6, 1 in 10, 1 in 9? Does it seem to cycle for you?
Yeah, there's a pattern for sure.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
So I got this pattern where literally every 6th video, and I time them out so that y'all see the ones I want y'all to see. I upload trash and bullshit 4 times, 5 times, then I'll upload 1 or 2 good videos that I took time on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned to just about thread the needle with it most of the time. Although it's very frustrating when I miss somehow. I miscount or whatever. And I end up with one that I spent 3 hours on getting 14 views, and one that I threw out there because it's bullshit getting 3,000. Do that. There's nothing more frustrating. Some random trash I picked up off the fucking internet.
So go under videos and go to my turn. So this is the first video that I put out that I took out the TikTok thing that I did fully on editor and not my phone. So it was kind of different. That was done by What's Truth, the intro.
It's good. I like it. I may steal it. But I do that. What's up, Grim Reaper?
I gave a fuck. I was taken for granted. But when I said fuck it, I became the bad person. So fuck them all.
Oh, we're being rude? Awesome. Cool. My fucking turn.
I can't do negative today. Positive
Sweet.
There's certainly a bit of a cleaner look to it.
Yeah. For sure.
Are y'all familiar with Moggs? Mogillon monsters. Mogolon. This guy. It's this dude here. All right. So he does panels just about every night, every couple nights, largely discussing his RV travels and his undying love of Bigfoot and all things cryptid, right? But for the most part, he just hangs out, smokes weed, chills with folks. He's got a huge following over there. In fact, I went and picked up Officially Forest of Monsters, Sasquatch, and Bigfoot Anon were all from his chat. Oh, and Shasta Valley Outdoorsman, I think. I'm not sure where I came across Shasta Valley. I can't remember. But he has an enormous fan base over here. And this is what he does, this kind of thing.
One night about 11 or 12 o'clock, had to go down to the shop and get something. And so I get in my little car and I tootle down there. I got neuropathy, so I don't walk nowhere if I can help it. Anyway, I was on my way down to the shop with my headlights, and I got a...
Wait a second. Are you saying you saw Boxy? Yeah, no, she's still around. She doesn't do trollery anymore. But yeah, no, we'll go do a deep dive on Boxy one day if Swiss Miss doesn't like show up and excommunicate me from her life for doing it. But she's a perfectly ordinary lady now. She's like what, 43 now? Hello, Blue. Dun dun dun.
I don't know.
They're roboting a little too hard for me. I'm pretty sure he's so cute. I just want to interview his beard. And you can't interview Moggs because he's always live. To my knowledge, I have never. What's up, Cavalier? There's a link up there if you want to hop up. I think I pinned it. Yeah, should be pinned it. After this, we're gonna probably go to the either some gaming stuff or we're gonna do some movie stuff after we go off live. So if you want to finish up Vox Machina, we can do that. I love that show. It's great. Hey, job. Right?
What the hell? Stop. Huh? What?
They blinked.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, but I wasn't going to say it. God damn, man. If the damn, it blinks and it like turns its head. And I was
happy birthday.
No. Bullshit. And I'm sitting there.
Mine's February 2nd. And it's the day that I do the groundhog's roast, where I wake up, and as soon as I wake up, I get me a pint of rum, and I start me a live stream. I put the StreamYard link in there, and everybody who comes up gets roasted. When I finish the pipe, I'm done with the with the show, and I turn it off, and everyone can forgive me later or don't. Some people don't. But it says it's the groundhog's roast in the title. If you don't want to roast me or be roasted, do not come on panel that day. Because I'm going to smoke you. I'm going to give you a slow roast with a long roll. Well, happy birthday to everybody involved. You ain't got to have a camera, dude. I know who you is. But yeah, oh yeah, bud. We'll do it. I try to set a movie night up just about once a week. I haven't figured out a great way to go about sharing that yet. I've tried sharing it in my Discord. Nobody's in my Discord, or the people that are in my Discord don't give a shit. One or the other. I was considering sharing it on YouTube, but I'm unsure as to the ramifications of sharing a legitimately. What's up, Graham? Show me that sexy mug you got. Just give me a picture of anything. Anything at all. You're going to have to make it jiggle, dude. There's no two ways about it. Something? Anything? Just make it wiggle. All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. Then we're going to do that. How about them apples? You're in here. Speak.
Why should I speak?
Because I insist. Well, you're good.
Yeah,
You're at least actually in here.
Is that age?
How you been doing, bud?
I'm all right. Just not long woken up again. I saw you live, and I thought I'll come over and see whether or not you're up for a roasting. But my
you can roast me anytime you're ready, dude. I'm down. I might not understand British roasting.
You don't understand a lot of things, but that's not my problem.
It's really not.
That does sound like a you problem and not a me problem.
And I'll handle that shit personally. Don't you swear your pretty little head about it. What are we studying tonight? Did you get to see any of the show at all? Hey, Lucky.
Wrong time in the day for me.
All right. So basically what we were doing was going through different YouTube channels that have unique and unusual theories about movies, right? Specifically, are you familiar with the movie The Rock? Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage go to Alcatraz, fuck everything
Mhm.
up. Is that a Bond movie?
No.
Are you so sure?
No.
What if I were to tell you that I found a YouTube video that breaks it down chronologically and shows you exactly how it's possible for the Sean Connery Bond to be the Sean Connery of The Rock? Yeah, I'm gonna leave this up for about 48 hours. Go check out I think the second video that I showed, because it goes a bit further.
Okay.
The next video is the American Psycho. Familiar with that
Right.
one? Being a Joker origin story.
Oh, when you leave it up, what I'll do is I'll download it and I might play it tonight. Saves
Go
me
check
doing
her out, man.
anything.
It's good
Special
stuff. It
guest.
really is.
Yeah, special guest for tonight and hosting.
I'm not sure what I'm doing tonight. If I don't end up with some movie watching.
No.
some decent
I'll
suggestions
cheat.
after I get off.
I'll just download this show and play this show tonight, and then I can take the night off.
So we'll all get together and give a shit later. I'm sure somebody will copyright claim both of them at some point. Welcome to YouTube. But hey, at least this one's ad free.
Yep. No, the only thing I'm doing at the moment is redesigning the website and moving it onto a different server.
Yeah, I saw that that blurb ad thing that you did.
The blurred ad. Didn't do a blurb. I didn't want people to think that the website had been attacked.
It is, but it's by you.
Yeah, I'm just ripping it apart.
Right.
It's all to do with the contracts that, well, I won't say contracts, there's sponsorships that I've got. So it needs to be redesigned.
All right. So this cat here, I'm not going to play the music because I really dig this dude. I don't know where he's at. I don't know where he's from, but he does these automatic fishing things on this river that he lives next to. And it's just little mechanisms. And I think, I'm not sure what he's catching here.
Pretty good, that.
It looks good, but have you ever tried to do anything like this?
No.
Are you wood-wise?
Could you imagine that when the salmon are trying to go home?
Break it.
Breed.
Break it. Same with trout. Break it. Yep. When I was a kid, I went on a trip with some Boy Scouts. We all went up to North Georgia to some river. Looks an awful lot like this, but it's up there on the backside on the other side of like Stone Mountain over there, way North Georgia. And I found this place there where a Native American weir had been hand drilled into the bedrock that the water ran over, but none of the pieces were there. And so for the 3 or 4 hours we were up there, I spent cutting willow fronds and sticking them in the holes that made the weir and catching trout. We had about 60 kids. There was a 3 trout limit. Everybody went down river with 3 trout. Somehow I don't think I got the concept. They all got very angry with me. It's like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, it's called preparedness, y'all. I thought y'all were Boy Scouts. What's the deal?
Well, yeah, it makes sense. Always be prepared.
What are we doing over here? What I miss? In my chat, there's stuff going on in my chat. I'm trying to figure out what game they're talking about. 2019 Joker. Which one is that? Is that a... Is that the early Bateman one? Pretty sure it's the early Bateman one. The only problem I have with that Batman is every time he speaks, he growls. Otherwise, he's decent. Homie making a conveyor belt. Look at him. I love these stupid channels. Magnificent.
I think he's showing how he built it.
Hello, Graham.
Oh, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I just thought you chose not to talk to me when I said hello to you when I came in.
Oh no, I stepped away. Sorry.
It's okay. I didn't take it personally.
He's lying.
I should have done, but
no.
Anyway, how is it over in Texas these days?
Oh, it's here. It's there. It's all right. It sucks. I can't wait to get the hell up out of here.
The thing about getting out of Texas is it takes a while no matter what direction you go.
Right.
You might have to make 2 trips. That's a lot of ass to haul. And this guy does all kinds of things like this. Like, this is just one of his mechanic videos. Now, I'm not sure how legit any of this stuff is, but as far as it functioning, it seems to function the way he designed it. I'm just not sure it would actually catch a fish.
Yes.
There would have to be a lot of fish.
He's good at collecting rocks.
Yeah.
All right, throwing bait in.
Right. But one of the issues I have is notice how the wide shots are always away from the baskets, but the close shots are always right in front of the basket, right? There could be a fish truck just off camera to your left, dumping them right into that hole. Right?
Yeah.
No.
But down to it.
No, pay attention. There is no wide shots of that opening there unless there's no fish involved. I'm telling you, I've been sitting here watching this dude for a few years. Some of these are gimmicked. I'd go as far as saying most of them are gimmicked to some extent or another. Now, once a year, he does a mega video thing where I think the actual fish, whatever it is, are actually running. But it strikes me as odd that he finds like an endless supply of these tiny fish that pop up. So what the fuck are these things?
Well, if it worked, then you would say that it was a humane way of fishing.
You ever left anything in a river overnight?
Nah.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what happens when you leave shit in a river overnight. It's gone when you wake up the next morning. Whether it was a bear or fox or a snake or whatever will get into your gear, fuck it up, and it's done. Coyotes, there's no way in hell that basket of fish be sitting there the next morning. Well, catfish travel in these weird predatory balls like a superorganism. Think of it like a predatory flock of birds. And that's how they move up and down channels and canals and stuff, like a mobile super predator as a flock. And that's why sometimes when you're out fishing at night and you start catching fish, you'll catch 12 catfish that look like clones. They're all the same size, exactly the same build. They're feeding and they're traveling up or down river in a little feed ball. Go watch National Geographic. It'll show you all about it. Oh, this is the part where I catch my chair on fire again. Let's get that out of the list now. We've done it. Done this one. That one. We did this one. That was that last week. That 2 weeks ago. Anybody want to find out why was some of New York still part of the Confederacy until 1946? Sounds like a yes. I think everyone left me. They've abandoned me. No one loves me.
Civil War, the United States of America was split. During the American Civil War, the United States of America was split neatly down the middle into North and South, into blue and gray, rebels and federals. But was this always the case? Were there not people on different sides of the line that actually agreed more with the other side than the side they were on? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about just one of these cases. And it's in a rather surprising place in New York City, because New York City was very much bound up with the Southern economy, particularly with the cotton trade, which of course was harvested by slaves on Southern plantations, a key issue in the Civil War. And this amounted to about 50% of the economic income of New York City was connected with this trade with the South. This also, of course, created political ties with areas in the South due to the large economic interest that New York City had in continuing these relations. So in 1860, when Abraham Lincoln won the presidential election, those in New York weren't particularly...
I'm not going to lie. I have a bit of an issue listening to a British accent tell me something about American history that sounds a bit fuzzy. Or is it just me? Wake up. Wake up.
I'm here.
Just seems sketchy to me. I don't know.
Happy about.
Well, I mean, would you listen to a Southerner talking about English history? I'll say,
No.
boy, whenever they raised over that there wall, what we was talking about was this old guy named Hadrian. See, I just don't see you listening. I don't mind.
No.
Maybe some Greek history.
Maybe.
This. There was also a political background for this, as Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, whereas most in New York at the time were instead favors of the Democrat Party, including the mayor of New York City at the time, Fernando Wood. Now, Fernando Wood had his own very particular idea about how he was going to keep those trading relations with the South, who, of course, they would soon be at war with, how he would keep them open. And that is in 1861, he suggested to New York City Board that instead of joining the Union or remaining with the Union and fighting against the Confederates in the South, New York City would become an independent state, an independent city-state, apart from both the Union and the Confederates, and that they would remain at peace with both. This new entity would be called the Free City of Tri Insula.
But I straight up blame Richard Attenborough for that. The whole idea that people listen to foreign accents, or as you put it, was a clean spoken accent, and most of those are British. That doesn't exactly check out, because you're not going to be paying attention to a Kenyan, no matter how clean his accent is. It's just the wrong accent. You won't be paying attention to a like encrypted hunter, encrypted encounter. Have you seen the encrypted encounter?
No.
Y'all. This dude has one of the greatest Tennessee accents I've ever heard in my life. I've been working on it, trying to figure out exactly how to go about talking like him, because I really like the way he talks. He's over there just speaking away like he ain't even thought nothing about it, but his accent, it just kind of drags out a little bit. I don't know exactly how to do it. Anyway, I've been trying, but I think maybe I found my accent for reading westerns. I've tried doing it as Foghorn Leghorn. That's just painful. I'm going to use that for poetry. Yeah, no, don't get me bogged down in the nitty gritty of the War of Northern Aggression. Because there's a lot of details there. Like, for instance, and this is the only one I'm going to bring up, and I'll move on. But what Sherman did was war crimes. Every step of it. There was no part of that sanctioned. War crimes. War crimes. So before y'all start any of that shooting Civil War type shit, y'all really need to look into your Sherman doctrine, because we're going to make you squeal, boy. We learned. We learned. Mm-mm.
And this three insula is Latin for three islands, as it would comprise of Manhattan, of Long Island, and of Staten Island. Quite rightly, everyone else thought that this was a crazy proposal, and particularly after Southern troops bombarded Fort Sumter in early 1861, this became an incredibly unpopular opinion, even for the most hardcore Democrats. These Democrats, sometimes called peace Democrats or Copperheads, were those Democrats that favored a peaceful solution with the South, as opposed to the war Democrats who, despite their political differences, were aiding the Republican President Abraham Lincoln in the war against the South. But in any case, for pretty much every faction, this idea of creating an independent New York City was a step far too far, and it never occurred. And that would be the end of the story. But this is where the real story begins, and this is where the interesting story takes a very interesting turn. And that is because one neighborhood in New York called Town Line actually did what the rest of the city did not. In 1861, 125 men from this neighborhood got together and held a referendum.
Be back shortly, guys. Sorry, got to nip off.
To join the Confederate States of America.
See, I tried to tell y'all that Grim don't love me no more.
Toodles.
You here? You gone? You there? You where? For us, for her, for me, for we,
Huh?
right?
He said he'd be back.
Okay, cool.
America and leave the Union. And the side that voted to leave actually got the most votes. 85 of the men voted to join the Confederate States of America against 40 who wanted to stay within the Union. So, for all intents and purposes, Town Line was now a part of the Confederate States of America, right? Well, how did the Union respond to this? Of course, they can't have somewhere in the North declaring their allegiance to the Confederacy in such a vital location as New York City, of all places. Did they, A, bombard it like the Southerners did with Fort Sumter, pummel it into obliteration? Did they do a bit of gunboat diplomacy, send in the fleet, scare them with the big ironclads, and then surely they'll join the Stars and Stripes again very soon? Or did they just send the troops in, gun them down in the streets, house to house? Well, how did they approach it? Well, they did none of these things. And the reason is that neither the United States, the Union, or the Confederate States actually ever acknowledged that Town Line had held this vote to join the Confederate States. Because Town Line wasn't a recognized municipal entity, it didn't have any sort of legal jurisdiction of its own to declare allegiance or break away from the United States. Furthermore, there were no actually delineated boundaries, so no one really knew if one street was part of the Confederacy or part of the Union, and so both sides really just ignored it. However, it is true that after the vote was held, at least 5 men left Town Line for Canada and then made their way to the south to join the Army of Northern Virginia, commanded by General Lee, and so to join the Confederate Army. However, it should be noted that over 20 men also fought on the side of the Union, so it wasn't like this was a sort of small bastion of recruitment for the Southern Army in the North, because it certainly wasn't. Now, had that been the end of the story with the war's end in 1865, then this probably would simply have remained one of those sort of wacky wartime stories that may or may not have actually ever been remembered. But it's the fact that in 1865, there was no sort of reversal of the town's decision to join the Confederate States of America, or even a sort of symbolic reintegration into the Union, that makes this story so interesting. And this would continue for over 80 years. And there were signs in the town that they had done this. For example, the fire department used to wear Confederate insignia on their uniforms, and members of the town would frequently refer to themselves as the last of the rebels, a slogan that apparently appeared in quite a few places. Furthermore, they would also often fly a Confederate flag in the township itself. Now, this went on until the end of the Second World War. I should note also that the members of the town continued to pay taxes throughout the Civil War and in the period afterwards to the federal government. And men from the township served in both the First and Second World War for the Americans, of course. Now, this went on until after the Second World War, when the president, Harry Truman himself, actually had heard about various of these enclaves that had asked to rejoin the Union. And so he sent a letter to the members of Town Line asking them to consider rejoining the United States of America. And so it was that in 19...
Come on, girl, I'll take care of you. You know I love you. We won't do none of that as we did before. We're all friends over here. Look, you surrounded by all my brethren. Why can't we just all get along? Rinse do, motherfucker. What about them apples, man? What do you think, Graham? Did he leave? Is he back? Do we have any
I don't think
potato?
he's back yet.
He's not back. We're pasta based. Damn. He got 8 too many subs. That's it. Everybody unsub from Fab Daddy. He don't like you.
46 on the 23rd of January, some 81 years after they had voted to leave. Actually, that math isn't right. Almost 80 years after they had voted to leave the United States of America, they held another referendum. And this time they asked, should they rejoin the United States of America? And this time the vote was fairly one-sided. They voted 90 in favor of rejoining. However, what I find interesting is that there were still 23 people that thought that they should remain in this sort of legal limbo zone as still the last part of the Confederate States of America. But of course, 90 voted in favor. And so the Confederate States of America can officially be scrubbed off the map after all those years. And actually, in recent years, the fire department decided to remove the Confederate insignia because of the modern political situation, although we still know what it looked like because we have it here on this badge with that same slogan.
I'm sorry about that, folks.
From what I hear, sort of...
I was just telling everybody how Grim don't love me no more.
Oh, that's very true.
I know. I was just trying to solidify it in everyone's mind so that they didn't forget that you hates me, master. You hates me.
Well, I wouldn't say that I hate you. Actually, no, you're one of the nicer people that I've come across recently.
My plan is working perfectly.
Unfortunately, you're also too honest for some people. So,
Think so?
Bloody well hate you. I was going to say something else then. I keep forgetting.
That's because
I'm a guest over in the States. I've got to be nice.
Really? That Southern gentleman thing, it's a little overblown. We're only a gentleman until you get to know us. That's the funny thing about the South. We have this tradition. It's called needling. If we don't know you, we'll be sweet as freaking apple pie, baby.
Yep.
Sweet as you can imagine. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir. However, once we get past that little facade of who you is versus who I'm is, then you get to see who I'm is, and I'll roast your ass.
Well, I like the theory behind what you just said, but yeah, I mean, you've not really met the wrong side of me yet, have you? You've always been nice. Even when you try and insult me.
Threaten you with a good time.
I've come across worse trolls.
You going live? When you going live again?
Usual time tonight.
Tonight? Where's that? Like
well, it's about 3 o'clock your time, or maybe 2 o'clock.
You, dude. I'm not going to be up that long. I plan on getting my knob slogged and going to bed soon. What we're gonna do
in the afternoon.
Well,
3 tomorrow afternoon.
In half an hour, it's 4:20 here, so that'll do me.
I hear you, baby. Hey, you found some of that good shit. Why Harry Nuts over here uploading a holiday pine cone? Let's see what he got going on. Actually, let's finish this first.
Vaguely Confederate memory of the town is something that is still kept to if you visit today. And there were, I've seen pictures of people dressed as Confederate soldiers, and that they have various flags of both Union and Confederate units inside the town in a kind of exhibition. I haven't been there myself, but yeah, it seems like a very interesting story that I wanted to cover in a video. But what do you guys think? Do you think, I think this is quite a funny story. Of course, there is perhaps a darker element to this. Is there another reason why they wanted to remain in the Confederacy for so long?
As I understand it, Texas to this day has articles of secession actually submitted in Congress. Like, it's been sitting there for like 176 years. Never were rescinded.
I have no idea.
But no, they seceded from the Union during the Civil War, but for totally different reasons. Texas wasn't really a pro-slave state and didn't really have any skin in that game, but they wanted to be their own republic anyway. So they did the paperwork. They did the vote. They voted. They sent it in, and then the Civil War broke out, and it was a totally different consideration suddenly. So they stood on their own firm grounds, legal grounds of saying, no, we offered the secession, the secession letters specifically to secede from the Union, but not for the reasons that the South did. But the Union didn't give a shit. And they attacked anyway because you must be with them. Y'all kind of vaguely resemble or something. Two totally different reasons, but it came down essentially to states' powers over federal powers. And while I disagree with slavery, I also disagree with the top-down approach of government. So there's that. Well, most slavery. If you come and ask nicely enough, we might be able to make some time for you. And Grimm's a great channel. He's got some weird stuff going on over there. He's one of those channels like Blue Unicorn and Strictly Strange that I have difficulty quantifying because I'm not exactly sure what it's actually about. I don't feel like I've seen enough of that episode to describe it. She just douches herself
How
out.
do you think I feel? I don't know what it's about, and I present it.
Somebody finally defined my channel for me.
What crap? Sorry, honest.
No, you did good. And I agree.
There's a look on your face that made that joke.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
3 bags full, sir.
3 bags full, sir. That's exactly right. What the fuck was I saying? You threw me off. Oh yeah, no, Texas. That whole scenario was unfortunate as fuck.
No, yeah, someone's actually defined your channel.
Right.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
I see up track.
You're correct. Apparently, what they think I'm doing is documenting YouTube. Is merely documenting the creators associated with channels, and if you were clever, you could go through my previous backlog and go find an awful lot of YouTube creators by 6 degrees of Kevin Baconing them. A bunch. Because you got to think that includes Harrison Peters, freaking NC Tyrant Hunter. You know? No red X's. That's what I told my kids to do when I got sick a couple of weeks ago. I wrote my daughter a letter. I was like, I need you to do me a favor. She's like, what? I said, I want you to come by and paint a big red X on the door. Don't come inside. She's like, what the fuck?
Now, that's something I would do just for a giggle.
Right.
If somebody asked me to do that.
Tom is threatening to move over here to the East Coast, and he says if he gets the job over here, that he's going to come hide in my bushes and scare me live. Like, dude, you in Georgia, you're going to get shot like 9 times. I'm like, I'm so sorry, you spooked me.
So you fall into the what was it? Yeah, shoot first, ask questions later.
What questions?
Exactly. Kill first, and then go. Oops,
Well,
sorry, didn't mean
well,
to.
let me break this down for you. All right. There are thresholds you have to cross for any firearms to become involved when dealing with me. Once you cross all the thresholds, you're getting shot. If I have nowhere to retreat and I can't get away and you come into my home, I will riddle you with rounds. And then I will call the cops to come do the paperwork. Find out who the best person to clean this mess up is.
By age, you're
done.
You're welcome
Give me my gun
on the show later if you wanted to go up. If you're awake, of course.
Yeah, we'll see. I did just drink a Red Bull. It's possible. I have issues.
My missus would die quietly.
Look, dude, I'm perfectly aware that it would be virtually impossible for a 3-dimensional being to interview a multi-dimensional time-traveling organism of the color blue. I can see the difficulty there. Also, I'm not sure how you'd pull off the little animation on a live. If we can figure that out, might be willing to give it a shot. I once interviewed a deaf guy. Can't be much different than that. Although I guarantee you, we will be speaking at cross purposes. You have no idea how much I enjoy the concept of confusing absolutely everyone. Yeah, she just bugged out on us.
That
Like,
includes
screw you
yourself
guys,
as
I'm
well.
going home. What's that?
Does that include yourself when you talk about confusing people?
Mhm.
That's all right.
Absolutely.
As long as you're not
Look
just
at my
picking
channel.
on people.
No, I'm not picking on anyone. I will allow you to come in and pick on yourself.
Thank you so much.
It's the least I could do. It's perfectly good content. It's usually even wholesome to a degree. 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 3 minutes. What you want to throw down for the folks?
If you've enjoyed it, the host name is Sasquatch.
That's Caucasian Sasquatch.
Thank you.
This guy.
I was about to
And
say that,
yes,
but every time I say that, you say, you can't say it right.
it's a Caucasian.
I just call you Snowy Sasquatch. And if you didn't like it, again, hit the like button regardless.
Yeah. Do something with those buttons over there. I mean,
Yeah,
they're there.
you might as
Play
well
with
do
them.
something with them. I totally agree.
Right. Like
Playing with
it,
the buttons is
dislike
probably
it.
better than playing with yourselves. That's all I can say.
Hey, that's what we need to do. We need to get together and have us a dislike stream.
Yeah.
Just
hang on a second. That's every time I go up here, people dislike me.
No. I'm fucking going for real numbers.
You never see the dislikes. That's
If I was going to be the Caucasian Sasquatch, I'd spell that different, son. I'd spell it right. Be the Caucasian Sasquatch, damn it.
Caucasian.
Caucasian. Yeah. I can't say Cajun right.
Caucasian. I always get it wrong as well, but hey, who cares?
I kind of regret the name. I get deuced out of black chat rooms immediately. Like unbelievably quickly. Like I don't even get to say anything, which really impresses me whenever I like comment and I'm told it won't post because the creator has blocked me.
Maybe you seem to think that you're racist.
They seem to think I'm Asian and they don't like it. Racist bastards.
Well, I've never known you to be like that.
Oh no, I like fucking with people like that though. I had a K Dot on here one day, and I was hitting him with the "you people" stuff, and he was like sitting there looking at me because he knew I was fucking with him. He knew it. He just didn't know what the punchline was, and I told him I had to go find some more YouTubers that you can't trust them. They can't tell
You've been
time.
going now 2.5 hours. Well done. Congratulations. You've gone over half an hour over your normal.
And my voice isn't even cracking all that bad.
I know. It's good now.
I'm doing pretty good. But yeah, I hit him with the word
Thanks
knitters.
to anybody in the chat who's put up with him for the last 2.5 hours.
I screw those guys. They apparently don't have a life. If they did, they wouldn't be watching me. I mean, y'all have wives and girlfriends and children and jobs and stuff like that. Don't do that. Watch me instead.
Yes.
All right. That's the show, folks. I appreciate it.
No,
I appreciate it, Trim. If I'm up, I'll come up and chit chat at you. I'm still tweaking a little bit from that Red Bull, so it's not unlikely.
Oh, well, fair enough. See you later, my friend.
All right,
bye, everyone.
Bye. So, yeah, no, that's the show. I appreciate everybody coming in. I hope I had a decent enough production for you. I got a few things I got to poke in over here, and then you'll see the things that we do. Which one are we going to do? The new outro or the old outro? I'm doing the new outro.
Sorry. Good news, though. We're going to have to move the party somewhere a little bit more private, but you're all invited. Lorenzo will give you the details. Yeah!
Hey, she was a cutie in a sundress. I told her I just had to confess. I got a